I'm about to speak to Samantha Clarke, who is a happiness consultant and the founder of Samantha and. She's also the author of this fantastic book, Love It or Leave It, and she lectures at the School of Life. I cannot wait to talk to her. We haven't met in person, but I can already tell that we are so aligned in so many things, that Samantha believes in that happiness should be at your core. But not only that, happiness should be surrounding you when you work. Whatever you do, you should be happy. But she also wants to provide us tips and advice on how to hold on to happiness. How do you actually maintain that happy place? What are the rituals that you should go through? What are the questions you should ask yourself? What is some of the hard stuff that you need to do? So I, for one, am ready for this journey and just cannot wait.
Hello, my name is Samantha Clarke and I am super excited because today I am joining Holly Tucker live on her IG channel to discuss all things work happiness. I am a happiness consultant and I'm also the founder of Love It or Leave It. My brand new book helps people to have that sense of agency in their work and either find what they're going to fall in love with their business or their job, or decide actually which areas do they need to leave behind and create something brand new. I'm going to be sharing all the resources and tips that I have around getting that clarity in the first place, keeping your happiness tank topped up, and what you can do to successfully work from home without burning yourself to the ground. I just love the work that I do, and it is my joy serving and helping people to live and work with purpose, meaning and intention. So I hope that you join me live.
Hi, Samantha. Thank you so much for us speaking again. So it's just really nice to chat to a happiness consultant and change maker. I mean, what titles do you have?
I love it. I think they're just all titles that just get me happy, pumped every day. I love what I do. So it's very fitting. And I think we should all create our own happiness titles, really.
Yeah, I completely agree. I remember when I left being CEO and chair lady at Not on the High Street, which is obviously quite formal titles, and I created a title called Chief Inspirator. Yeah. And everyone decided that that was a terrible title, and I thought it was absolutely fantastic. I think we need more Chief Inspirators.
Yeah, totally.
So tell me, we are still in the lockdown period. How has this time been for you, just on a personal level?
Yeah, so it's been a really interesting journey of discovery for myself, but also the people that I work with. I do have and suffer from sickle cell, which means that I have been on the, I guess, vulnerable list. So I've been indoors and I'm just slowly creeping out and going for walks. And it's been a real testament of the rituals and routines that I put in place to keep my momentum. I launched my book actually the day that we were going into lockdown. So all the events that I had were completely obliterated. And then suddenly I was thinking about, showcasing and talking about my book just online solely. And I think it's just been a really interesting journey learning about people and just showing up and serving. And I think I could have sat in that place of just feeling really like, oh, I'm lonely, I'm in my flat on my own. Or I just leaned in and thought, actually, there's people who need me. I love what I do. So now is the time to just show up and coach. And I've been enjoying it. Had I been out running from one event, doing one book thing, I probably wouldn't have really been able to spend so much time savoring and listening to what my community is saying.
I really think it's been that sort of time, like you were just referring to. It's this wake-up call. It's a way of sort of maybe spring cleaning the way that we think. And I read that you studied in the Bhutanese, I can never say this word, but I know all about it, the model of happiness, where in Bhutan is a country that measures their growth, isn't it, and productivity through gross national happiness rather than GDP, which is what we all do, and it's not necessarily been a great case study, has it? So can you just share with us a bit how helping others to find happiness has been your own path, and almost did you have your own journey?
Yeah, so I think we're in a really interesting time where people are taking a step back and they're thinking, is this the best way that I can be working? Or how do I believe that I can only work in one way? And what is it I think I can't change? And we're becoming so much more attuned to our mental, our physical well-being and what we want. And when I think about my journey becoming a happiness consultant, I started off in advertising and, I was working with sugary cereals and things that just didn't light me up. And I felt to myself, is this it? Is this what I'm supposed to be doing? Is this what I've spent years at uni studying for? And I took myself away in the evenings to really kind of answer those questions like, can I be creative? What does creativity mean? What else could I do? So I started making shoes and moving towards creating my own footwear line. And then we hit the last recession and my backers said, actually, footwear is super money intensive, not sure, let's press pause. So I started to hack my skills in different way. And a lot of what I teach my clients to do now is like, put it all out there and then start piecing it together again. And a friend of mine introduced me to somebody who'd just been made redundant. And she said, there's something about you. You're a great listener. And as we talked, I became his kind of work agony aunt. And we were talking less about clothing and colors and more about, what he wanted to do, the toxic culture he'd just come from. And I loved it. So I deep dived into studying more coaching, more psychology. I started lecturing at the School of Life back in, I think it's 2012. And then I got my first kind of happiness job per se, with a tech company. And they were scaling very quickly. I was doing a mixture of lecturing, a mixture of like marketing and events for them, and a bit of coaching. And so I said to them, you've got a team here that you want to grow remotely, but you're not really listening. You're not really attuned to what's not working. And I think we need to do something around culture and happiness here. And so they said, go away and present what you think. And I said, look, this is what I could create, a roadmap of coaching and a roadmap of bringing the culture together and getting people to talk about what they really wanted. So I became their head of happiness and I was there for 2 years. And then I decided to branch out on my own as a happiness consultant. So working with companies, looking at it internally, what we can do to the culture, and then really giving people that sense of agency to think, in my life, how do I want to work? How do I want to serve, and how do I want to be on purpose? And so that's where I am today. And I think the book is just a good conduit for all of these messages. Yeah. And it's just a place where I poured my heart and soul to get people to think about, following my framework, following my peak framework. How do you identify what the pain is, what it is that you want to plan and change? Evaluating your toolkit, thinking about your passions, your values, your skills and your strengths, and then taking some action, loving it, leaving it. What are you going to love? What are you going to leave behind? It's not just the destination. It's like, how do we keep standing taller in our mission moving forwards?
Tell me, when you were in that corporate setup, and I know it was a startup and it was tech, so it wasn't like really corporate, what would you say is that number one thing that you feel is missing? What's that one thing that from corporate life people say, this is what makes me really unhappy? Do you have like a common denominator?
Yeah, so I think a lot of people feel either demoralized on the job. They don't really know, is this thing playing to my strengths? I don't seem to have any room to be autonomous in my work. I think relationships are also a key thing, the toxic relationships either with their co-workers or their boss. Another thing is perhaps they don't believe in the values of the actual culture or the product or the service that they are having to work on from a day-to-day basis. And so, when I say picking the pain, a lot of times it is isolating, the job role, the responsibilities, the tasks and things. And sometimes we have strengths that are drainers or energizing. Like, what is really ticking and floating your boat? What areas do you think actually, especially as a founder, do I need to delegate or, really stop doing so I can stay in my zone of genius? And how do I get on better with people that perhaps are triggering me in different ways? And I think this can sometimes remedy things or also shine a light on, actually, it might be time for me to move on.
It's I love it, drains and radiators, that sort of, that whole concept. I want to pick up on that in a minute, because we all strive to be happy. And I spoke to Fern Cotton about happiness and what it means to her. And I realised is that happiness is just, it is just so deeply personal, isn't it? You know, what fills some people with joy just raises a smile to somebody else. How do you think we can identify what makes us happy? You know, because I was, you know, and I think, you know, I'm 43, and I think that some stage, once you've done, potentially kids are getting older and you're trying to find your way in life, there's almost this second time, especially for women, that they sort of look at themselves and say, I don't know what happiness even is. You know, I exist, I serve, I make everything happen, I'm brilliant, but I don't know who I am potentially anymore. How can we find our identity again?
Yeah, and it's so poignant that you touch on that, because I do experience a lot of clients who, you know, have said, actually, I feel like I've just been running on autopilot for the last 5-10 years. And so I think for me, there is a nice little formula that I try and help people think about. I think the first way we can really get into understanding a bit more about ourselves is following these kind of 7 steps, is thinking, okay, it's called Be Happy. So it's following this kind of journey of the B is being present and aware. You know, what is going on with me? How do I feel? How do I feel across my sweet spot areas? So, you know, the relationship I have with myself, the relationship I have with other people, the relationship that I'm having with work, and also my home. You know, is my home setting up where I feel frictionless? It feels effortless to me. E is about that kind of exposure and really interpreting like when you have that fear of asking for help, or where you don't feel you can be honest and bring all of yourself to the situation. Because when we're wearing a mask, or we're hiding, or we're trying to pretend to be something we're not, this is also a massive cause of friction and dis-ease and unhappiness. So H is for hang up. And I really think that if we can take a moment and understand how we combat stress, how we think about stress, and what we can put down. You know, when you think about Erykah Badu, she said she had this brilliant song called Bag Lady. And I think we have to, as entrepreneurs, know which bags to put down, identify how and where we hold stress. Is it, you know, across our shoulders? Is it in our lower back? Is it in our stomachs? So H is for hang up, letting go of that stress, neutralizing that energy, and also wondering, you know, for you, maybe stress doesn't appear in a physical. It could be cognitive. You could be forgetting things. It could be behavioral. Maybe you're shouting back at your coworker or your partner, your child. And then it can also be in the way that we sometimes overdo certain things. We could start overeating, smoking more, shopping. So really look at how it plays out for you and what you will do to circumvent that and put things in place. A is about appreciation. So appreciating all of who you are and all the gifts that are around you. And I don't think, especially women, take the time to hear the things that they're amazing at, or ask for feedback. I think we need to hear that sometimes, to think, not in a pompous way, but just to recognize that we're here with our gifts and we are so incredible and unique. And I think the 2 Ps are about plugging the gaps, so identifying your skills and thinking, which ones am I not using enough that I'd like to, or that I haven't given myself the patience or time to, and plugging the gaps, identifying your relationships, which relationships in your lives really support you, uplift you, make you feel like you're flying, and which ones perhaps actually it's very tenuous. And I think the last one is so powerful when it comes to your happiness, is your words. How are you talking about yourself, to other people? And I think all of this kind of encapsulates that kind of constant journey to discovering yourself and to knowing what's working and what isn't, and really crafting your happy space.
It's so, gosh, I absolutely love this. And I'm assuming that this is all in this book here.
Yes, so I do crack down some of the 7 steps towards the end as well. And I really get people to think about it as a journey throughout the book properly.
Oh, because I was just thinking the other day that, you know, I was I don't know, I was almost self-congratulating myself in a weird, well, I thought it was weird. I didn't want anyone to hear what was going on in my mind, because we do have this sense, don't we, that is it egotistical? Is it wrong that I pat myself on the back? Is it wrong that I ask for feedback that might be positive? All these sorts of things. And I think that we use the word ego, don't we, really in a negative way. I mean, we all know idiots who are egotistical and all that, but I think ego is really an important structure and foundation to any entrepreneur to start with. I mean, you have to believe in what you're doing. You have to believe in that you have that gift to do it. Otherwise, no one else is going to believe you.
Yes. And I think, it's that sense of like, this is my stake in the ground and this is what I believe in. And I know that I'm really good at it. And if I'm not in some areas, I will find help and I will find the support that I need to help me levitate to that next step. But you cannot, because the entrepreneurial journey is gonna shape and refine you like some other diamond, like you've never known. And it is a constant growth journey. It's a constant magnifier of your blind spots. It's a constant, just opens you up for everything. And if you don't have that solid internal grounding, it will blow you apart. You have to congratulate yourself, because oftentimes it is you alone until the wee hours of the morning working away on maybe your accounts or your stocks or whatever. And if you don't have your own back, nobody else can do that for you.
It's you mentioned something about that foundation. I can only say, through all my years of mentoring small businesses and just being around thousands of entrepreneurs and founders, that thing, which is that if you don't have that sort of, and we talk about foundations and scaffolding of your sort of world, and I believe that what you're as a happy, you believe that happiness, and I would absolutely back you in that belief that unless you are coming away from your Duracell battery is full, that you're able to run this, that you are internally happy. And as you said, and I'm sure you can't be just happy all the time, and I'd love to hear you talk about that. But is it very important to almost really look within before maybe starting an entrepreneurial journey or starting your business? Is there a sort of way of thinking about doing a sort of DIY or evaluation of your world? And do you think people understand what you really need to start that small business journey?
Yeah, do you know what? I think you've touched on so many brilliant points there. I think sometimes, starting a small business or becoming an entrepreneur, it's that sexy thing, isn't it? It's like, leave the job, start a business. And, we don't realize that there's so much groundwork that perhaps we don't have enough time to, because maybe we found a great idea and we want to get to market quickly before somebody else hits us. And then it's later on that things start to unravel, because it's lots of sexy, glamorous Instagram feeds of when it's all going well, but nobody's posting the nights where you haven't been paid your invoices and somebody is waiting for payment over here. And what will that stress do to you in the long term? So I think there needs to be some discussion with yourself and some voice noting, some journaling, to just lay yourself a foundation of, okay, this is where I'm great, this is perhaps where things might spiral. How will I seek support? What will I do? So you almost have like a checklist of what could possibly go wrong and who could I get to support me, because I think when we don't know what our blind spots are, they will be magnified so much more as an entrepreneur.
So much self-awareness is required, really. But the point is that actually it's that sort of work that you would do beforehand is so worth it, to then feel that you have got that support network, that you have got, yourself, you understand what your blind spots are. I mean, even understanding that terminology, that you have a blind spot, it's all of those sorts of things. I've got a few more questions. The last few months have been exceptional. So many people that I'm speaking to are working now remotely, always have worked remotely. And a lot of people now have decided to work remotely. They've, like Holly & Co., we've now become an agile team that's going to work from home. What would be your advice about switching off and that sort of, I don't like to call it work-life balance, because I do believe in a full life and a full person. But we spoke about rituals, and I love that I'd love to talk about what that is that you believe in, ways of managing our days in order to preserve our happiness, I suppose.
Yeah, so one thing that's been really nourishing for me is thinking about my wind up and my wind down practice.
Okay.
And so it is just thinking, how do I wind up into the day? Because I've just never been that kind of person that just springs into action straight away. And I don't produce my best work like that either. So I really would encourage small business owners to think about, how are you gradually setting yourself, almost like the sun rises very slowly. We should also take those elements from nature as well. And I definitely love taking a moment to read. I always feel that, especially in the work that I do as a coach, I want to make sure that I'm fueled with the best knowledge to give my clients. And so, and then if I don't put it into my slot, reading never gets done. So taking that time to immerse yourself in whatever it is, maybe it's following your trends or reading a magazine about that, but that and some movement. And then I feel like I'm ready to start breakfast, have a shower, and get on with my day. I find that a lot of founders need to think about how they can save space throughout the week. So depending on what your working week looks like, whether you're working in a shop or you're working online, how will you block out standard kind of working in the business time versus on the business time? Where is going to be the time for developing the mission and the vision and strategizing and thinking ahead versus just thinking in that moment on the problem that you might be firefighting? And then I love a wind down practice in the evening. So physically moving from my office space into a new zone, maybe changing my clothes, different fragrances. And, I love my Michael Hyatt focus planner, and it kind of helps me plot out the top 3 things for the day. And then what I kind of want to work on the next day. It also has a really good section in the back about, how much sleep have you had that week? What have you been eating? How did you feel? So, I'm doing that learning about myself, and then, just take some time to wind down before bed.
It is absolutely brilliant. I mean, I just think that's such good advice. Wind up, wind down, look at the sunrise, the sunset, and have that routine, because it then at least gives you some stability in, you don't know how the day will start, but you've started it in a certain way.
Yes, exactly.
The world can throw lots of things at you, but you have a way of starting the engine and turning off the engine. And it's such a good piece of advice. From my personal experience when running Not on the High Street, and I think a lot of small businesses have exactly the same thing, I always move the goalposts. I never, I sort of had these dreams and would set the dreams as the goals. I chased them down, and then I basically would get there and just move them again. And so I basically was eternally, on this sort of journey of never smelling the roses, always looking at what I hadn't achieved. And and I'm sure so many people listening would actually empathize with that. In your view, how can you set goals to maximize your happiness? Is there a way that you can actually monitor this and actually be conscious that you are moving these goalposts?
Yeah, it's a funny one, isn't it? Because I think that goals are there to get us, fire started on this journey. And then sometimes we can become entrapped by them as well, or they can be things that we can't grasp onto. But I also have been discussing of lately with some friends, thinking about goals in different ways in terms of an elevator. And so on each floor, you're learning a bit more about yourself, and you're shaping that vision as you get to the penthouse. And so the penthouse, you might start off on the ground floor thinking the penthouse looks one way, and then you get out on floor one and you learn a little bit more about yourself and some of your intricate needs and some values that you haven't tapped into. And then maybe on floor two, you might meet somebody who opens your mindset or connects you to somebody else. And then floor three, you might plan something. The 15th floor, that plan could change, and then suddenly the penthouse is a completely different vision. And so I think we need to be agile in our approach to thinking about goals and our mission. And a friend of mine actually sent me, she's the CEO of Bellu, and she sent me a really great article yesterday by Nietzsche, and he was talking about our life's presence as whether or not we are a camel, a lion, or a child. And so the camel is often weighed down with everyone's expectations, and they go the distance in a very arduous way. And the lion is a bit more ferocious, like pushing away different authority mindsets and saying, actually, no, this is what I stand for and this is what I care about. And the reality is that the child is someone who approaches things with curiosity and doesn't really know where the rules are and doesn't really know where they're going, but just has this open mind to just try and to keep trying and to play and to be open to where life takes them. And so I invite people, yes, to set your goals, to have your ladder or to visualize, but also invite childhood curiosity, invite play. Stuart Brown is a play psychologist, and he says that play is the stick that stirs the cocktail of life. And I love that, because I think, we can have our goals, but we need to play on the journey too, so that it doesn't feel like when we get there, we're fed up. Think about whose shoulds or super shoulds are in your mind when it comes to your goals too.
Super shoulds? What's a super should?
Yeah, like super shoulds are... So like a should do is like I should, get my accounts done and all of that kind of stuff. And then the super shoulds are everyone else's weighted expectations around how you are supposed to operate, the goals that you needed to have set. At this age, why don't you have X, Y, and Z? And, we have to let go of those and just take care of the things that, yes, we should do to keep the business operating. But everyone else's super shoulds need to just go.
Need to go. Tell me, final couple of questions. What was for you when you work with people and mentor people, and for business owners and those wanting to find their dreams, what would you say is sort of like a key piece of advice to those who somehow are blocking themselves before they've even started?
So I think a number of things. I think one is really understanding what your inner critic has to say to you, because I think our inner critic definitely has a job. Sometimes its job is to protect you, sometimes its job is to keep you small, sometimes its job is to get you to seek more knowledge and awareness. And I think when we get quiet with ourselves, we can start to give them different names, or, channel in and think, okay, what is this moment or this feeling that I have right now, and why am I stopping myself from moving forwards? Is it because I need more knowledge? Is it because I maybe need to widen my network? Or is it because this is the one time I'm doing something that I'm shit scared about and I'm worried that I'm going to fail? And that's probably the category that most of us do fall into. And we have to think to ourselves, what would happen if I just tried? Tim Ferriss says that he doesn't like fears as such. He likes to write down a list of what's the worst case scenario should he take action in any possible direction. And I think I love that, because I think if we explore what could possibly go wrong and then work our way backwards, okay, do I have something that could prepare me for that? Actually, in the grand scheme of things, is it going to get that far without any help, or that some fires that I wouldn't be able to put out before then? And I think we've also got to look at, so what if you make a mistake? Like, as long as you haven't killed anybody, and I think
not in jail.
Yeah, exactly. No jail. I just think try.
God, it's just amazing advice. And so tell me, you're running a masterclass at the moment, but tell me other ways that people can. So we've got the book, which is just fantastic.
We've got the book.
We've got the book. Yes, there we are.
You've got the book. So
what
for
other
me,
ways can people get hold of this thing that you're doing to me right now?
These nuggets. So I have my career boot camp, which is 2 weeks of me kind of doing some live coaching, live training, getting people. We're doing a lot of mindset work, because I think before you move into any action, it is thinking about your own self-leadership. Mm-hmm. But the one way that I'll be working with people is through my Lily Life. And that is my work happiness club. That is where you will be doing, so I have a 12-week program in there to help you build your work portfolio should you choose to start your own business, start your portfolio career. And I'll be showing up there coaching weekly, full of little bite-sized courses, videos, and lots of topics across my 6 pillars of happiness. So that is thinking about your money, your personal purpose umbrella, the people and places in your life, so building better working relationships, thinking about your mind and your well-being, your systems and your processes, and money, because we need that to kind of fuel everything else as well. So that's what you'll be getting from me. Daily dose of me in your pocket, on your phone, on your desktop, with the Lily Life.
Oh, love it. Thank you so much. This is going to be so helpful to so many people. And certainly I love that you're pushing and the sort of cheerleader of happiness and within your business, that is absolutely critical. And I think for too long we've been toying with whether it was okay to think that we should be happy. So thank you very, very much. And everyone must buy the book as well, because
get yourself a copy.
Oh, bless you. Thank you so much, Samantha. Take care.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.
Right, let's think about what Samantha's saying. We need to ask ourselves, how am I working? Do I have people to help me? And is my lifestyle actually set up for me achieving this? So these feel like really big questions, but you know what, as we said right at the end, that I'm going to summarize. So in terms of happiness, Samantha says, notice what is a drainer and what is an energizer. Engaging mentally and physically with those sensations. We cannot change people. Be happy first. And that is an incredible thing. For you to be a good leader, to be a good parent, to be a good entrepreneur, a business owner, you need to have yourself, your happiness filled up. And we need to celebrate those small wins along the way. I couldn't agree with Samantha more. Actually, in every single word she said, you've got a big contract coming up, and actually you've now done 3 or 4 conversations and it's feeling really good. Why not break open the fizz? Celebrate the fact you're even in this moment to have that moment. How am I going to be talking to myself? If we can't show some self-love, it's critically important. Wind up and wind down routine. Now, you need a wind up, getting ready for the day, and a wind down moment. It's about, being able to set up her day in a way that she knows will make her successful. And connection is key. When I talked about remote working, connection is key. What types of support are missing? What gaps do you need to plug? And take responsibility. I mentioned it earlier. I mentioned it in the beginning of this summary, but it's us taking responsibility for our own happiness. And if you're motivated like Samantha to helping other people, then her and I understand that us being happy is actually a very big responsibility, because you cannot you cannot pour from an empty cup. Thank you, NatWest. Thank you, Dell. Thank you, Royal Mail. Thank you, 3, for helping me bring these conversations to life with people like Samantha, a woman after my own heart. Bless you. Thank you. Lots of love. I'm now going to go and have I was about to say a glass of wine there. Not really, Holly, at 1 o'clock. I'm going to have a glass of cold water. Lots of love.